Hello! This is day 64 of reading one canto of the Divine Comedy every single day. We're on Purgatorio, Canto 30, which I will read from the Longfellow translation before giving some quick comments. When the septentrion of the highest heaven, which never, either setting new or rising, nor veil of other cloud than that of sin, and which made every one therein aware of his own duty, as the lower makes whoever turns the helm to come to port, motionless halted, the veracious people that came at first between it and the griffin turned themselves to the car as to their peace. And one of them, as if by heaven commissioned, singing, Veni sponsa de Libano, shouted 3 times, and all the others after. Even as the blessed, at the final summons, shall rise up quickened, each one from his cavern, uplifting light the reinvested flesh, so upon that celestial chariot 100 rose, ad vocem tanti senis, ministers and messengers of life eternal. They were all saying, Benedictus qui venis, and scattering flowers above and round about, manibus odate lilia plenis. Ere now have I beheld, as day began, the eastern hemisphere all tinged with rose, and the other heaven with fair serene adorned, and the sun's face uprising overshadowed, so that by tempering influence of vapors for a long interval the eye sustained it. Thus in the bosom of a cloud of flowers, which from those hands angelical ascended, and downward fell again inside and out, over her snow-white veil, with olive synced, appeared a lady under a green mantle, vested in color of the living flame. And my own spirit, that already now so long a time had been, that in her presence, trembling with awe, it had not stood abashed, without more knowledge having by mine eyes, through occult virtue, that from her proceeded of ancient love, the mighty influence felt. As soon as on my vision smote the power sublime, that had already pierced me through, ere from my boyhood I had yet come forth, to the left hand I turned with that reliance, with which the little child runs to his mother, when he has fear, or when he is afflicted, to say unto Virgilius, Not a drop of blood remains in me that does not tremble. I know the traces of the ancient flame. But us, Virgilius of himself deprived, had left Virgilius, sweetest of all fathers, Virgilius, to whom I for safety gave me. Nor whatsoever lost the ancient mother availed my cheeks now, purified from dew, that weeping they should not again be darkened. Dante, because Virgilius has departed, do not weep yet. Do not weep yet a while, for by another sword thou needst must weep. Even as an admiral, who on poop and prow comes to behold the people that are working in other ships, and cheers them to well-doing, upon the left-hand border of the car, when at the sound I turned of my own name, which of necessity is here recorded, I saw the lady, who erewhile appeared veiled underneath the angelic festival, direct her eyes to me across the river. Although the veil, that from her head descended, encircled with the foliage of Minerva, did not permit her to appear distinctly. In attitude still royally majestic continued she, like unto one who speaks, and keeps his warmest utterance in reserve. Look at me well. In sooth, I am Beatrice. How didst thou deign to come unto the mountain? Didst thou not know that man is happy here? Mine eyes fell downward into the clear fountain, but, seeing myself therein, I sought the grass, so great a shame did weigh my forehead down. As to the sun, the mother seems superb, so she appeared to me, for somewhat bitter tasteth the savor of severe compassion. Silent became she, and the angels sang suddenly, In te Domine speravi. But beyond pedes meos did not pass. Even as the snow among the living rafters upon the back of Italy congeals, blown on and drifted by Sclavonian winds, and then, dissolving, trickles through itself whenever the land that loses shadow breathes, so that it seems a fire that melts a taper. Even thus was I without a tear or sigh before the song of those who sing forever after the music of the eternal spheres. But when I heard in their sweet melodies compassion for me, more than had they said, O wherefore, lady, dost thou thus upbraid him? The ice that was about my heart congealed, to air and water changed, and in my anguish through mouth and eyes came gushing from my breast. She, on the right-hand border of the car, still firmly standing, to those holy beings thus her discourse directed afterwards. Ye keep your watch in the eternal day, so that nor night nor sleep can steal from you one step the ages make upon their path. Therefore my answer is with greater care, that he may hear me, who is weeping yonder, so that the sin and dole be of one measure, not only by the work of those great wheels that destine every seed unto some end, according as the stars are in conjunction, but by the largesse of celestial graces, which have such lofty vapours for their reign that near to them our sight approaches not. Such had this man become in his new life potentially, that every righteous habit would have made admirable proof in him. But so much more malignant and more savage becomes that land untilled, and with bad seed, the more good earthly vigor it possesses. Sometime did I sustain him with my look, revealing unto him my youthful eyes. I led him with me turned in the right way. As soon as ever of my second age I was upon the threshold and changed life, himself from me he took, and gave to others. When from the flesh to spirit I ascended, and beauty and virtue were in me increased, I was to him less dear and less delightful. And into ways untrue he turned his steps, pursuing the false images of good that never any promises fulfill. Nor prayer for inspiration me availed, by means of which in dreams and otherwise I called him back, so little did he heed them. So low he fell, that all appliances for his salvation were already short, save showing him the people of perdition. For this I visited the gates of death, and unto him, who so far up has led him, my intercessions were with weeping borne. God's lofty fiat would be violated, if Lethe should be passed, and if such viands should tasted be, without any scot of penitence that gushes forth in tears. The saddest part of the Divine Comedy is when Dante turns around trying to say something to Virgil about how happy he is to see Beatrice and finds that Virgil is not there. He's returned to limbo. He has done his job. He has brought Dante to Beatrice, and now he goes back. He can't go any further. He was such a good leader, a good father, really, to Dante. Better than he could have imagined. So much better than he deserved, and he knows it. There's so much tenderness and loving care in their relationship. It's beautiful and so sad that they now have to be parted. One of the songs that the attendants and the angels sing as Beatrice appears is Benedictus qui venis, which, if you're familiar at all, it's Latin for blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, except Dante has changed the grammar of it somewhat so that it is instead blessed are you that come. This is kind of a grammar nerd thing, but he leaves the ending of the Benedictus the same, US, which means that even though he's changed the rest of the words so that they can refer to Beatrice, the word Benedictus still is formulated so that it can only refer to Christ. This is important to see because we have to wonder, why is Beatrice given so much honor? How is this not worshiping another human for Dante? Well, first of all, like I said, this is a courtly love poem. He is praising the beauty and virtue of his lady. But from the very beginning of the poem, it has not been too much honor. In fact, what Beatrice has done for Dante, that is, willed his good, willed his salvation from beyond, from heaven, and tried everything to try to save him, and despite that, he keeps going further and further, closer to hell, until there's nothing left to do for him but to send Virgil down to bring him on this journey. Basically, she does everything possible to try to save him, even when he does not deserve it, even when he himself chooses to fall away. It's Christ-like of her. She is acting as Christ to him, and that is why so much Christic imagery is surrounding her. That's also reflected in what Dante wants to say to Virgil. He says, I perceive the eternal flame. I see that flame within her. Remember Virgil's discourse on love, where he referred to the source of love as an eternal flame, that so long as, you keep sight of that flame, virtue is what he calls it, love only begets love in a good way. So when Dante's now referring to the eternal flame, we know that he's talking about the source of virtue, that is God. He perceives God's beauty, God's goodness through her. Let's get to the main event, which is Dante meets Beatrice. finally. And despite what Virgil said, oh, she's going to be so happy to see you, she is not. She is pissed. She scolds him so badly, even the angels are starting to wonder if she's going too far. How could you possibly have let yourself fall so far? You loved me when I was alive. You let that love for me lead you closer to God. And then the second I left, when I was more beautiful, by definition, because she's in heaven, turned your gaze elsewhere. Any deadly sin could be meant here, but it seems to me implied that it's talking about Dante's romantic licentiousness in his life. He was a love poet, right? Is this deserved? Yes, absolutely this is deserved. Dante had, Beatrice says, all of the gifts of heaven going for him. He had a great intellect, he had a great example, great education, all of the possible things that could make it easy for someone to stay true, for someone to follow God as closely as possible. He had them, and he still mucked it up. Any of us would. That doesn't make Dante especially bad, but it does make it just for her to really tear into him here. And he's so ashamed of himself hearing this that not only can he not look at her, he can't look at himself, his reflection in the water. Water, remember, that will, in just a few moments, purge him from his memories of sin. He literally sees in the water memories of his sin. Virgil kind of hinted at the beginning of the Purgatorio that, Dante was on his last leg, that there was no other way to save him except for going on this journey. But yes, the 7 Ps have been wiped from his forehead, but he never has really had the chance to actually face what sins he has done, just what other people have done, which he's used to reflect on that which is in himself, sure, but this is the first time that he's actually really had to do it. It would not be just for him to show no remorse for his past life before being completely purged of it. And you do have to confess what you've done before you can be forgiven. So this is a painful, shameful, but necessary step for Dante. That's all for today, though. I'll see you tomorrow.